morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order our September 17th McLeod County Board of Commissioners meeting. Can we please begin by standing with our Pledge of Allegiance? Again, good morning. We will start with our consideration of agenda items. Do we have any additions or corrections to today's agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Schmalz to approve today's agenda items. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Our consent agenda.
No changes, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Luthens to approve today's consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving into our Health and Human Services, Barrett Sports Director.
Good morning.
Morning.
I have one item for you today. Consider approving utilizing the host county agreement with Hennepin County for case management services with Mount Olivet Rolling Acres, Inc. An outside option is needed for contracted case management for the conflict of interest cases and for individuals who request a new case manager. It is also good for McLeod County to have an option of choice per direction from the Minnesota Department of Human Services. So we looked into contracting with Mount Olivet Rolling Acres individually, realized that Hennepin County already has a contract with them. So because of that, we can use their contract. I just need a verbal agreement from you gentlemen today to be able to do that.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
It sounds good. Can you give me in words that I understand what it
Sure.
really means?
So it would be for the case management of waivered services such as elderly waiver, our caddy services, our alternative care, those types of things. So if there's a conflict of interest, which would mean that the case manager is related to the individual or there's a conflict there, or if the client has requested another case manager and we're not able to accommodate that, or for sometimes clients that live quite far away and it would cost us more in travel time to case manage them, we might contract with this agency or work with this agency to provide that case management for us.
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
And Barrett, do we have this type of an agreement in place with any of our other surrounding counties?
We do not, no. No, this is, so the other counties might use Hennepin as their host contract already. I'm not sure of that. I know some are looking into it because of conflict cases potentially. But being Hennepin County has this, they have allowed us to use them as a host county contract. So we've talked with Hennepin County and we've talked with Mount Olivet Rolling Acres, and both of them are okay with us going this way.
Mr. Chair. I'll move approval. I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. We have a second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmalz and a second by Kruger to consider approving the host county agreement with Hennepin County for case management services with Mount Olive Rolling Acres. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, the reason I had one more question. Is it basically because they're big enough to have the staff to do it? Is that why that, because obviously anytime there's a conflict of interest, we need to
Yeah.
move on, but is that
Yeah.
the biggest reason why? Is there they
That-
have the capability of doing it?
That's what Mount Olivet Rolling Acres does, is contracted case management. That's all they do. They contract with other counties or other entities to provide support and services where the county can't take those cases. Hennepin County already has a contract, and so for us, instead of going through all the work of developing a contract with them, we are able to use them as a host county contract. We do that quite often. People will use our contract as the host county and just use that and attach to them for approval.
Is that option, does that have to be satisfactory to the client? I mean, is that is that their choice? Then is that,
Right, this would be few and far between. It's not,
Sure.
it's not like we're gonna say, do you wanna use one of our case managers or do you wanna use this? We're always gonna use our case managers unless there is a case where it doesn't make sense. Like I said, they live too far away where it would cost us more to case manage them, or if there is that conflict.
but what I'm asking is, do they have to take that manager then? I mean, is that their
Yes.
choice? Okay.
Yep.
I'm good with
So,
that. Thank
Barrett,
you.
just to add, it has to be a justifiable
Thank you, Sheila.
reason
Yes.
for a conflict of
Yep.
interest. This is also good because in some cases, Commissioner, we can't find an external option for outside assistance. There's other areas in Health and Human Services where we could use that right now, or if we have low staffing and it's not always
Absolutely.
available.
Yep.
So the availability is unexpected and good, correct?
Right, correct,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schmaltz, you have a
And
question?
Mr. Chair, I made the motion because I think it's a really good idea to be prepared for cases like this, especially moving forward in the society we live in today, and I support the action that we're about to take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there gonna be any liability on their part or their part?
The liability would be to them if they became the case manager for a client.
Or we're just
Yep.
gonna do it verbally, nothing?
No, what you are agreeing to today is the contract that Hennepin County already has in place with them.
Commissioner, can you turn your microphone on, please? Or bring it towards you, thank you.
So in your packet was the full contract and the Amendment 3 that has the most recent rates.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Public Works. John Jerbeck.
Good morning.
Morning.
Consider approving a Minnesota Department of Health Source Water Protection Non-Community Transient Grant application with a request of $10,000 in funding, and to authorize myself to sign the grant application and grant agreement if awarded. As discussed at the March 19th, 2024 Board Workshop, well number 3 at Lake Marion Park continues to test positive for total coliform. Staff, MDH, and well contractors have been troubleshooting potential sources of contamination in the well and water service system, and also treating the well multiple times this summer. Schaefer Well Company out of New Ulm performed an inspection of the well on September 10th and found deficiencies in the well casing that is leading or likely leading to the infiltration. MDH offers a source water protection non-community transient grant to assist with correcting contamination issues in public water systems. The grant maximum is $10,000 and requires an equal cost share. Cost share funds can come from county resources or other private grants. The cost share activities must be grant eligible activities, and the application to be submitted would request funds for construction of a new well and sealing of the old well.
Okay, any questions, anyone? I don't thank you for your work on this. It's been a long time trying to figure out where the problems are at, and finding additional dollars to pay for repairs is much appreciated. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on the topic?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
what's pretty much spelled out on what we do, and the choice is to go without water or do it, so I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Luthens to consider the to approve a Minnesota Department of Health Water Resource Grant for repairs at the Lake Marion well. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, item B, consider approving change order 1 from Design Electric out of Hutchinson, Minnesota for fairgrounds electrical projects 1 through 3 at a cost of $6,764.13, which is included in the final payment, which will be under the next agenda item. The change order was for an additional pedestal with 250 amp outlets at the south end of the east parking lot portion of the project. There was additional capacity with the panel that was installed for that portion of the project, and staff felt it was a good opportunity to increase the service offerings in that area as long as they were going to be boring and working in that area. So,
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
John, this is within budget, correct, for the project?
it is above the original approved amount.
It is, okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna put in my 2 cents, because we have talked about this, and at the time, we've had enough electrical problems at the fairgrounds that, and we're doing this work right now, it's the right time to do it, and I'll let somebody else speak to it, but we've had lots of troubles with adequate electricity, so I know it's costly, but, we did have this discussion when we decided to add on.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
You probably heard this 1,000 times. They said when they built the fairgrounds, whatever, 30 years ago, thought they had enough power forever. And it took 3 years and they don't. So my point of view is, yes, it's a little over what we thought it was gonna be, but not egregious, and it's the time to do it now while we're in this, because it'll just cost more later. So I know it stinks that this is going on, but the events that are being held there and the draw, these campers to food trucks to everything takes is enormous, so, I don't know that we ever won't chase it, but this would be a way to get ahead of it a little bit, for a while.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I'll move it. Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Luthens to consider approving change order 1 from Design Electric for electrical work at the McLeod County Fairgrounds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. To vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item C.
Consider approving final acceptance and payment of $27,364.13 to Design Electric of Hutchinson, Minnesota for Fairgrounds electrical projects 1 through 3 with funds from the designated for capital assets budget. The final payment amount includes payment for change order 1. This project is completed satisfactorily and final acceptance and payment is recommended.
Just my comments on that is we watched through the summer as these electrical projects came together, and yes, there had to be some changes along the way. However, when we got to our biggest event, the McLeod County Fair, it was definitely noticed that we had power in the right places. We didn't have a lot of issues, and we continue to have doors open to a lot bigger events that are coming in. And so this was a much needed investment, and as was brought up earlier, the electrical work that was done originally, it didn't take long, and it found it to be quite a little bit short in areas, and now we have that fixed after this last season of a long time coming of planning and getting this done. So, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Nagel, second by Kruger to consider approval of the final acceptance and payment of $27,364.13 to Design Electric. Any further discussion?
Only discussion, Mr. Chair, I'd have is that the motion was really just to pay the bill. We had decided before to do the work, so
Yep.
if we gotta pay the work, it's done satisfactory.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Consider awarding county project CP 24-00001, the 2024 countywide pavement marking project to Camco Incorporated of Cokato, Minnesota at a cost not to exceed $50,000 with funds from the highway construction budget. This was after we rejected bids on the larger countywide project. We scaled down the scope of the project and released it for quotes. We released it out to 3 known striping entities. We received 2 quotes back, one from Camco and one from Sir Lines a Lot. Camco was the low unit price bid on this one. We ended up saving about 2 to 3 cents per foot depending on the line type over our larger project for this. So I'm requesting that we go up to $50,000 on this project.
Okay, a carryover project from our last board meeting. Looking for any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'll speak to it as being that I was the one that kind of rejected the old bids because they were twice as high as engineers' report, not quite. But it's kind of a reset in my mind because we only got 1 bid, and again, it was almost twice as high as the engineers' projected costs, and we just have to reset, and this gave Andrew, our engineer, a chance not to fall too far behind. We're doing what we have to do. We saved a little money, but it just kind of reset our priorities. So I appreciate your work, Andrew. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
I can second it.
We have a motion by Kruger and a second by Nagel to consider awarding the county project 24-000-01, the countywide pavement markings project, to not to exceed 50,000. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney's office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm asking for the board to adopt Resolution 24CB23, which would consent to the full-time appointment of Carol Mayer to be an Assistant McLeod County Attorney effective October 7, 2024. This is not a new position. This opening was created when an attorney moved on to the Wright County Attorney's Office. That was Ms. Pischke. So Ms. Mayer currently has a private practice in Arlington, has had for some time, and has previous county attorney work or assistant county attorney work experience prior to that. So pursuant to statute 388.10, that gives the county attorney authority to appoint assistants, but it requires the consent of the board. So that's the resolution I'm seeking today. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Kruger to consider adopting resolution 24CB-23. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Employee relations, Hannah.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, item A this morning is considering approving the evaluation committees and personnel committee's recommended grade assignment for the facilities manager job description. This is not an additional position, but an upgraded or an updated job description to reflect the required duties of this role, specifically to make this position more of a project management for all of our buildings and facilities in McLeod County.
Okay, questions, anyone?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'll speak to this. I mean, obviously, we lost our janitor, right, lack of a better word.
Facility supervisor?
Yeah, and in order to, I've had quite a bit of talk with employee relations and our administrator, on doing it this way. It gives us a little bit more movement on pay, obviously, and on the knowledge this person should know, and I had made my thoughts known that I would scrutinize, who we hire and how it's hired, and with that, they should make it more efficient, both for all the new equipment, air handling units, and different refrigeration heating that we have. So it makes it kind of hard because we're trying to hold back, but I think in the long run, the efficiency will be good. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve
Mr. Chair,
the request.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to note that the facility supervisor was a role that was approved, I don't know by which board, it was before I was here. However, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Yeah, we need to second it.
Okay, Commissioner Nagel just seconded
Okay.
it, so go ahead.
Thank you. The investment into this role should by far outweigh the cost of the role. And it has with Spencer as well. When Spencer moved on to a different career, I wouldn't say we lost him. He's still been here helping out. We're happy for him in his new role. And this person has to handle the automation systems, a lot of mechanical systems. They have to be helpful outside of business hours. And then they have a pretty large team to to manage as well. And our employee relations department has done a really good job of making sure that we have a good staff throughout changes in the last few years. So thank you for doing that. And I'm grateful to the board for supporting this change.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
it's hard in this day and age to always answer in a politically correct manner, but it is, we were sorry to lose Spencer. He was a young guy. I happened to follow his career a little bit from where he came from and when he came here, he was, we were hoping he could grow, and he has every opportunity now to grow, probably more in what he wanted to do. But having said that, we have to worry about us. And my concern in today's world is I want somebody I would like someone that, knows their stuff and is not afraid to get their, lack of a better word, hands dirty. So, we'll be watching it, and again, it does take, someone that can direct and manage their employees, so that's what I'm looking forward to, so.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
Thank you. Consider approving the addition of one Health and Human Services assessor. This addition has been considered and budgeted for the 2025 budget. This request is coming before the board prior to the beginning of the year due to the Department of Human Services implementing a new program called the Community First Services and Supports Program that takes effect on October 1st of this year. CFSS works with individuals to allow greater independence in their homes and communities, and this position will receive partial reimbursement. We do have Barrett Spores here as well if there are some additional questions.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I personally, I don't know if we want to do it today. I'd like to know more about this position. If we're willing to go through it today, I would have hoped to move it to a workshop to actually hear. I'm very, very cautious to hire a new employee. I'd like to hear more about how the wages, or her partial wages are recouped, and I'm very cautious. Not that I'm against it, it's just, I'd like to hear quite a bit more about it, so. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, we do have the option then to move this into a workshop after our next board meeting. If we want to have a greater understanding of what this position does, or move on it today. So let's see, Barrett, you're at the microphone.
Sure. I can certainly try to answer some questions. This is a new program for us that is developed out of the Department of Human Services. We, as the lead agency, have to provide the oversight and approval of all the CFSS plans and service agreement entry. So this is work that we have to do as a lead agency. If you are familiar with PCA services or personal care assistant services, that is going away, and this program is replacing it. So we have right now about 50 clients that are on PCA services. As of October 1st, when they come up for renewal, they will be transitioned over to the CFSS program, which is substantially a lot more hands-on work. So while right now our assessors are already doing their assessments and some of them are doing the PCA work, this work is a lot more hands-on and is going to take a lot more time. So this individual will have a caseload of at least 50 clients, which we think they will also be able to do assessments for us, which are revenue generating. This position will be revenue generating. At McLeod County, we are 100% time reporting. So when we report in our brass codes, that is how we get reimbursed. So that assessment team brings in a substantial amount of money for us.
Couple of questions, Mr. Chair. Number one, who's doing it? Is the 50 clients that we have now through
Yep.
are handled by more than one employee right now?
I believe so. I believe they're handled by more than one employee.
And what's changing? A more extensive background check or something, or
No,
what's changing that the workload gets harder?
Because the state is getting rid of the PCA program and going to community first services and support. It is all about client choice. This gives the clients an opportunity to have more choice in the care that they receive. So just to reiterate, October 1st, when those 50 clients come up for renewal, they have to go to CFSS. I know it's a lot of acronyms. Whether we have this position or not. So why we are proposing to add it now instead of in the next year's budget, which is already in the budget, is because if I have to take assessor time away to do this service, we're gonna lose revenue. We'll lose revenue because those assessors do billable services.
Mr. Chair, and I realize it's in the budget now, but I'd like to see the spread on, I mean, a budget can entail or take away from a lot of it, you can shuffle it around, but I don't know that this wasn't specified until now, that this part of this budget would go to this person, right? When was this actually at, is this a legislative thing, or did it from the DHS, or where did it?
It's from the Department of Human Services, yep. It's one of those mandated, partially funded things. We are hoping that we are gonna get some of the funding that we previously received to do some of the PCA work. We don't know quite yet on that, which is typical for DHS. I hate to say that. Do the work and we'll figure out the funding later. So it is gonna be partially funded, and again, we have to do the work no matter what.
So just looking this up a little bit, it looks like this is, so like you're saying, it's going to replace two things, the personal care assistance and the consumer support grant. Another
Yep, and we
acronym,
get-
CSG. So,
Yep, and we get that, sorry Sheila, we get that consumer support grant right now.
and then the individual providers who are giving that service, we're going to do they'll do training so that they can transition into this different program. So that's good. You're not
Yep.
stopping completely one thing. It's almost like, more like a transition, but you'll
Correct.
need the
Yep.
support to not impact our budget with the assessment, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. But it does, I can't see the date when it became mandated to be implemented, but it's implementing on October 1st, 2024, according to the DHS, like Barry
Yep.
was saying.
And again, that'll be a rolling transition, so not everyone is gonna automatically go on October 1st. It's when their renewals are up, they'll transition over. So in the meantime, until they get a full caseload of 50, they'll be doing assessments, which are major revenue generating for us. So that'll bring in additional money.
And it looks like this directive wasn't given out until summer 2024.
Correct.
And what it covers for the services would be daily living activities, so eating, bathing, grooming, transferring, health tasks, instrumental activities like shopping, cooking, laundry, self-administering medications, which is very important because there's a high cost when you have to change away from that, and then observation and redirection of behavior. So hopefully that gives more info, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
This is my final, I mean, it's October. There's no data, I don't have any data for and against. I don't know what it does to your group. I personally would prefer that we not act on it till after the first of the year and see how the 3 months works when it's implemented, and then at least there'd be data to either support or deny your requests. I just have a hard time, personally, I have a hard time just adding more staff, because we can't, once we add them, they're there. I mean, they'll always be there, so that's my view right now. I just don't know enough about it to make a decision today.
Okay. The request is that it's just something you wanted to get done before the beginning of the new year, correct?
I would like to hire immediately.
Immediately.
Because it's, at least post and get going, because it's starting October 1st. And to Commissioner Kruger's point about adding staff, every time a staff person leaves, we reevaluate. There are a number of staff that we have not filled, positions that we have not filled, because we've done an evaluation, we've talked with HR, and just haven't filled because we don't need them at that point. So I just want to make that clear, that every time there's a new opening, we take a step back, we look at the workload, and we reevaluate based on the needs of the department and revenue sources to see if that's something we need to hire for.
And I do understand that, and I don't shoot messengers. I understand that, except there's some we can't fill. I mean, I'm on personnel. I mean, we're getting requests all the time, and I have to admit that you do scrutinize employees, but there's some that we can't fill. I mean, and that's part of my uneasiness, is that if you fill some of them, how many do we need here? I mean, it's an ongoing battle in today's world, so I don't know. I'm, like I said, I'm just uneasy at this time to approve it, but I understand. I get, Hannah does a good job, or you do, you check out, but I don't know how many openings do we have that we can't fill right now. I know in other departments, I get that, but the workforce is the workforce.
Mr. Chair, I'm just gonna ask that if this is not approved, that it can be reconsidered after either the Personnel or Budget Committee not move to the beginning of the year, especially with the implementation of the rule change on October 1st, that if we need to, we can bring it back to the next or following meetings and not have to wait until January 1. Thank you.
Well, just a thought, I mean, I think this is the first time that we have a board heard of the Community First services and support change. So maybe there would be a benefit to perhaps hold off on this until we get a workshop after our next board meeting. Understand what that means, understand how your department has to, shuffle around a little bit. And then that might clear some of the air as to why, we're gonna need additional staff in order to continue to capture those revenues and maintain those services. Does that sound like something that we can potentially work with?
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair, for my part, I need to understand the balance a little better than just keep adding money.
Yeah, and the balance is I can talk about the current workload and the current revenue we're bringing in. I don't know what revenue we're gonna be bringing in for this CFSS. Like I said, DHS hasn't shared. We think we'll get some of that CSG grant reallocated back to us, but we don't know that.
Okay, just to maybe start a process to maybe evaluate this a little bit differently, I'm gonna throw a motion out there to hold off on this until we have it as a workshop item first at our next board meeting.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Wright, second by Kruger, to postpone this issue until we have a workshop after our next board meeting to evaluate. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Item C.
Okay. Item C is consider approving the 2025 McLeod County Employee Wellbeing Budget Request. The Employee Wellbeing Budget supports the health and well-being of all of our McLeod County employees year-round. Some of the programming includes biometric wellness screens, after-hours fitness programs, well-being challenges, and the wellness credit program, as well as well-being trainings. This request has been budgeted for 2025 with funds from the well-being budget. I will note that this is not an increase from the current budget in 2024, and it has been well utilized.
Questions or comments, anyone?
I'll move it.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Nagel and a second by Schmaltz to consider approving the 2025 McLeod County Employee Wellbeing Budget Request. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I believe that the well-being budget has stayed the same, not just last year, but probably the previous year as well. So we do consider it a benefit to our employees. We do encourage their participation to secure some of those benefits, whether it's the biometric screening, whether it's the exercise regimes, or whether it gets them credits on discounts to their health insurance plans. So I'm happy that I can support the ask and continue serving on the Wellbeing Committee as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item D is consider approving the Budget Committee recommendation to set the 2025 non-union health insurance employer contributions at $970 toward the single coverage, $1,351.06 towards employee plus child or children coverage, $1,351.06 toward employee plus spouse coverage, and $1,801.40 towards the family contribution, as well as a $250 credit for eligible employees who have coverage elsewhere and opt out of McLeod County Health Insurance. This recommendation has been budgeted for 2025 and presented to the Budget Committee.
Okay, questions or comments, anyone?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
Hannah, how does this compare to last year? More for the camera than anything, but
Yeah, so we, overall, McLeod County saw an average increase of 14% across the board for all of our plans for 2025. And so this, this increase, it is an increase from 2024. As we know, health insurance is not getting less expensive. And so what this did is it looked at an 8% increase, taking about half of that overall increase for employees for our non-union.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I want to note, and Hannah, I hope I'm using the right numbers here, but I believe that we were actually facing a 24 to 26% increase from our
That's correct.
health insurance provider, right?
That's correct.
And so the negotiations committee, or in the health insurance committee, excuse me, worked to go over these things the past few years. So this is an investment of time, and the only reason it is, I'm not gonna call it low, because it isn't. Health insurance is far too expensive, and we all know that. And, but it would have been over 10 to 12% more had we not negotiated rate guarantees, and Commissioner Nagel had worked on that quite a bit with our insurance broker, so I thank you for that. We have an insurance committee that we have with Sibley County Joint. We go over these things every year, even if we are in between a contract, or not in between, but in a contract and can't change providers, we're still watching that every single year. And we still have things out for quotes, so thank you for your work. And I'm not saying it's low, but I am grateful that it's not as high as it could have been without that negotiating.
Yeah, thanks, Sheila.
Also to note, sorry, but it's very important to remember, our health insurance cost is a result of our performance in the plan. It doesn't come from anywhere else except for us actually utilizing the plan. So we didn't have a great year the past couple of years. And those impacts don't come, they're not visible right away. It comes in waves, and it comes after. So after our current provider took us, they couldn't actually see how we had performed our last year with our last provider, and it was worse than they had expected. So it's not that they're passing on a bunch of costs to us that aren't actually caused by us.
Okay, any further questions or comments on the health insurance plan?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I will move request and honor the Budget Committee recommendation set for the non-union health insurance employer contributions.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmalz and a second by Kruger to consider approving the Budget Committee's recommendation to set the 2025 non-union health insurance contributions. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. My last item is considering approving the Budget Committee recommendation to set the 2025 non-union employer-sponsored health insurance health savings account plan participant matching contribution for eligible members at a maximum dollar-for-dollar match of up to $1,200 for single plan participants, and at a maximum dollar-for-dollar match of up to $1,800 for other eligible HSA tiers, the employee plus children, employee plus spouse, and family. This has been budgeted for 2025, and the last paragraph just mentions this is the same as in 2024. In our current year and year prior, we have had almost 100% participation from employees who are in HSA plans. This has been extremely well utilized for our employees.
Mr. Chair, I'll move request.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Schmaltz and a second by Kruger to consider approving the Budget Committee recommendation to set the 2025 non-union employer-sponsored health insurance savings account plan. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just a comment that HSA has been, our administration's worked hard on getting our employees to use it, and then once they use it, they seem to understand a little better and like it. It's a plan that I've liked, and I appreciate their work.
Any further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, will proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. On to county administration. We will review our calendars. Commissioner Nagel?
Yes, been a couple weeks of meetings regarding information for me, or constituents and groups wanting some information, which has been good because I've been tied up with other things, so I was able to squeeze those in at some different hours. A lot of questions regarding the levy that we're gonna talk about here after our calendars regarding what that looks like and why we do what we do, so that was nice to be able to get out there and talk to them about it. People, well, nobody wants the increase, but when you explain why, they understand that much better. Some meetings regarding the solid waste department, still working on some ditch projects, and then also Bell Lake area, or the Bell Lake Association regarding Pekinsburg Park. Also a big shout out to the Hutchinson Chamber. They hosted their Arts and Crafts Festival this weekend. A couple commissioners got to even see this commissioner directing traffic over the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know who made that schedule, but he should have done a better job to make sure he's not standing in the intersection. But the reason I bring it up is those events are a lot of work. They bring a lot of people to our community, bring a lot of people to our county, and that's good. But they're a ton of work, and I don't know if it's because of one role or the other, but I got a lot of compliments on McLeod County, and that made this all worth it, which sometimes it feels like it's not, but it was a good deal. So that's it.
Okay, since the last time we met, we did have a budget meeting, which set up a big issue that we'll be seeing here in a few minutes. Also attended the McLeod County Farm Bureau annual meeting. Fairgrounds Commission met. We talked about, the positive changes of our electrical work, a little bit of work needing to be done on some buildings before winter, and kind of where our new building is sitting in its construction plan. Latest update, hopefully we're able to start booking events in there by the end of October, but we're down to the finishing work, and that's very time consuming, and a lot of things need to be checked off. So hopefully it gets open soon. We have a lot of individuals that are waiting to get in there for events, and that's exactly what we built it for. Number of calls on the as we kind of get into those last days of the roundabout project, 115 in Jefferson, and we're open ribbon cutting today, so that's going to be great. Also, a couple questions on some ditches that came in that are getting some kind of end of the year maintenance on them. So that's about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. I started with our after board workshop last meeting, but then when on the following Monday, on the 27th, I had a Buffalo Creek watershed meeting and public hearing on the ditch, central ditch. I had an HRA meeting and our budget meeting that Commissioner Wright alluded to, and then this last week I was at MRC. It's a conference for all the Minnesota counties, and within that we have Minnesota rural counties which took in the first day on the 11th. Pretty much all budgeting and conversation on what our priorities will be in the legislature. I don't, they pretty much all entailed, new regulations, water, actually water, or transportation. I also had a number of calls on the 212 roundabout that opened. I did use it a couple times myself. It remains to be seen. We had a little input on it, but not, the construction part was pretty much done by the state. I'm hoping, at least that it is safer than, the old one, which, I personally seen a lot of bad things, running stop signs and whatnot, so I hope that comes to an end. I had agenda review. I worked with, Stefan a little bit on Thursday to get our agenda set. And then the last thing, being elected official, I just want to make sure that after one of our last requests, people know that I've had my family's had some health issues. I am not on the county insurance. I just want to make sure that people understand that. I had no intentions of being on it. I don't have to be. I'm retired, so I have Medicare. But I've heard some comments about that, and I just want to be clear. I don't participate in the county health insurance. So with that, I'll pass it on to Nathan.
Thank you, Commissioner Kruger, for your report and that important information that you shared with us. After our last county board meeting, we held our workshop right here at the Government Center. And that was Tuesday, the 3rd of September. I also started getting communications regarding a ditch meeting that same day that was being held in Carver County, specifically in Young America. It was a system that does involve parts of McLeod County. Carver County is going through a redetermination of several ditch systems. This was a landowner meeting that was called where H2 overviewers presented their findings of redetermination. It was only an informational meeting, but the watersheds through redetermination expand greatly, as we know, when we go through these. And JD1 is a Carver McLeod ditch system that includes watershed area in Winston Township. So I fielded several questions and conversations about that. I felt it important to attend that meeting to help our constituents here in McLeod County navigate the system and address the questions that they had with H2 overviewers. It was a packed house. They did review 9 systems, so there were a lot of questions fielded by the public. But everybody had the opportunity to speak and visit with H2 overviewers and get their questions answered. And then, as Commissioner Wright indicated, I attended the Farm Bureau annual meeting held at the McLeod County Fairgrounds on Thursday the 5th. I also did a Prime West meeting that afternoon. Due to a busy schedule, I was able to Zoom that meeting. The Prime West meeting was kind of business as usual, a review of some of the issues they've been struggling with over the last couple of months, and financials for this past month. On Monday the 9th, the county administration held a cannabis informational meeting right here at the Government Center. I attended because I think it's important for my District 1 governments to know about the cannabis meeting so that I had some knowledge. It also is a sharing knowledge with other entities as well. I think it's an important decision that our local governments need to make on whether they're opting into the county ordinance or whether they want to entertain an ordinance on their own. So I just want them to be making that decision and be well informed. And I had interest in attending that meeting for that reason. And then on Wednesday the 11th, I attended the AMC Policy Conference along with Commissioner Kruger. I also attended the Rural Minnesota County meeting that was held that Wednesday afternoon. Mr. Kruger reported on some of the happenings. I'll report on the guest speakers. Representative Jim Joy addressed the group. I believe that he's a first-term representative from the northwest part of our state, and we appreciated his presence to address the group. And then also Senator Tory Westrom addressed the group as well. Senator Westrom is he's a senator that's been on the state legislature for quite a few years, and it was interesting to hear his comments and his experience at the state level, and his presence again was much appreciated. AMC, or I should say rural Minnesota counties, had a discussion about retaining the firm that's doing their lobbying. They're pretty pleased with the performance they got this past year, and they were looking at entertaining into a contract to extend to the group that's now serving rural Minnesota counties. The following day, Thursday, AMC started their general government policy meetings. It was a full assembly meeting the first morning. NACO, which is the National Organization of Counties, gave an address. The amazing part about it was the speaker that was on stage was referencing all the grant opportunities available through the federal government. They are many. It almost, after listening to the speaker, it almost was like, well, if we're going to be spending any money, we need to be referencing some of the specialists we have, whether it's AMC, Association of Minnesota Counties, or up the ladder to NACO. Lots of opportunities out there exist. And then they also followed that morning with the speaker about the cannabis ordinance. I believe that our administration is ahead of the curve. A lot of the material was something that our administration has already presented. So I was happy to listen to the speaker and take any points away that I thought McLeod County still needs to address. But they did a good job explaining that. And then after that, for that afternoon, we break off into our assigned committee assignments. I'm on general government policy. We look at priorities, like Commissioner Kruger reported, on what we want our lobby group to be looking at doing in St. Paul for next year's legislative session. Right now, these are brought forth as just ideas and proposals, but as we work through our AMC district meetings, we'll start narrowing those lists down even further, and votes will start to be taken. And the final vote taken on platform will be done at our winter conference in December. I guess with that, I'll just end my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lutens.
Thank you, Commissioner. Attended the workshop on the 3rd. Following days, I did a tour of the 212 and Morningside roundabout. Day after, we went through the roundabout at Airport Road in Jefferson, which turned out really nice. Went to that opening, was Thursday morning, Friday morning. So that one turned out excellent. Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay. Attorney's office, no? Back to administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item A, we're gonna have Colleen Robeck, our finance director, go over consideration of approval for the 2025 preliminary tax levy.
Good morning, Commissioners. What I'm asking today is consider of approval of the 2025 preliminary tax levy and budget. Several tax levy options are going to be shown today. I'm going to have that up on the screen shortly here. From anywhere from a 1% increase in the tax levy up to a 3% increase in the tax levy to be considered in 0.5% increments as options. So what you're gonna see on the screen here is the 2025 proposed budget at the same tax levy dollars as 2024 was adopted. The Budget Committee has worked with department heads to cut spending on capital purchases and is holding outside organization requests to the same allocation as approved for 2024. Since McLeod County is a service organization, wages and benefits make up 44% of the proposed expenditure budget. Personnel costs continue to rise with the cost of living, increase in health insurance, and the new mandates of the Family Medical Leave Act tax, which will be implemented in 2025. The county board discussed the 2025 budget and levy at the budget workshop on September 3rd and recommended a not to exceed 3% increase. So I brought these options for your consideration today. The increase to the tax levy would be distributed to the Road and Bridge Fund to keep this fund in compliance with McLeod County's fund balance policy. McLeod County's policy requires unassigned fund balance to cover a minimum of 5 months of the following year's expenditures. Without an increase to the 2025 tax levy, the Road and Bridge Fund would fall to 4.5 months of unassigned fund balance. All the other funds are in compliance with the policy at this time. To balance the budget in all funds would have taken a 12% increase, and the board was not in favor of this increase, and will use fund balance to cover the overage of operating expenditures in the other funds. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Mr. Chair, I just have one comment. I attended the fall policy event as well with the Association of Minnesota Counties, and of course, some of the other county administrators came to me asking, you know, what is on your agenda for the preliminary levy? And I'm not gonna name counties because I didn't go over their agendas, but some of them were saying, wow, you know, we are having to look at a minimum of 10%. They had thought that our county was in a better position for our considerations for what I saw coming on the agenda, and I just wanted to share that with you in case you had that question. And just like in 2024, once those preliminary levy numbers are passed, we'll gather them from the other counties. We did try to get all 87 last year. I think we ended up getting up for 79, but it's a lot more to consider than what some people realize. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
can you back up, Colleen, just to emphasize, if we had to go to 12% about, if we wouldn't have our healthy budget the way it is, would just back up to that statement, because I just want people to really pay attention.
Yeah,
to
so in
that.
order, because you'll see on the spreadsheet there, like we're using fund balance in some of those funds. So the general fund is using some fund balance as well as social services and the highway fund or road and bridge. So we would have needed $3.4 million increase to do a, you know, no, without using fund balance. But we have healthy reserves that this isn't going to be needed.
Mr. Chair, and healthy reserves are kind of mandated. It's not just because we, you know.
Right, our fund balance is in compliance with what the state auditor recommends. You should have 5 months operating expenditures in the bank to cover those until the next tax payments come in the following year.
And this is probably one of the most important meetings for the board to hear, but, or not this one necessarily as our final one in December. But having said that, I mean, over the years, this is the foresight that you have to have as a board to make sure you keep a healthy budget and a healthy fund balance. And it's not always easy, because I remember when we first, or at least when I first started, there was a number of years that we did no levy increase or held it flat, and lack of better words, it was kicking the can down the road. I mean, it gets tough to try to stay at an even keel you know, boring is good. If we can just stay at some kind of an even keel, it's easier to explain where our expenditures are going, without rationalizing. And, I agree, I think, the counties that I talked to, I think we're in really good shape, and I'm just trying to say that I think, Clean's done some excellent work, and our board has watched this, and again, this is more important than assessments, and it's more important than everything, because this is the actual money that we provide to our departments to give the services to McLeod County. So, I mean, these are all things, you know, don't just look at the final numbers. Look at the whole thing. I mean, that's all I have to say right now. I mean, we've worked hard on the budget, and I guess we'll get into more of that discussion as we go along here.
Commissioner Schmalz.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
When visiting with other commissioners at last week's conference and hearing some of the reports, I will also reference what Administrator Murphy stated. I even heard higher at the rural Minnesota counties meetings, higher percentages than 10%. I mean, it was in the teens on a couple of counties. The demographics of our counties, especially rural Minnesota counties, is so much different. So with saying that, I want to say I appreciated the work that previous boards have done, you know, in controlling the financials in McLeod County. Some of these counties, amazingly, they're still talking about how are we going to fund armor radios, you know, and luckily we took care of that a few years ago. They're looking at upgrading their jails. Luckily, that's been addressed in McLeod as well. So they really don't know where the money's coming from or going to come from. So I do appreciate the work that a previous board has done to keep our financials at a hopefully reasonable level in the past and moving forward as well. That's all I'll say for now. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
So this is probably the 10th one for Doug and I, and Paul's got more than that we went through this, and now Nathan and Daryl. And it's nice not to see the numbers between 8 and 12%. It's between 1 and 3. I'm gonna stop short of a motion, Mr. Chair, but I'm in the 2% range is where I wanna be. I think that covers, and I'm willing to hear pros or cons to that. But that's where I'm at, like I said, these last couple weeks, and I'm sure it was spurred by the workshop that we had, the conversation that I had with more groups than any other year, some single, some multiple people, regarding where we would be and how that would go. So again, short of a motion, but I just wanted to give my opinion, but I'm in that 2%.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions, anyone? I know as we did sit through the budgeting process, again, Clean has brought it up, it is the road and bridge account that is falling short of our policy, and that is the primary one that we need to allocate dollars towards. And with all of our other funds staying within check. Financial soundness of the county is, of course, a big priority as we look at where we have to allocate services, those that were, especially even those that we're mandated to have to provide. And so selecting a number too low creates a challenge for years upcoming. We've seen that, we've learned from those mistakes, and we don't ever want to do that again. But we are very fortunate that we made some decisions with using ARPA dollars for things like armor radios that has saved taxpayers an awful lot of money over the past couple of years, and that has definitely helped today to be able to come here with a number that is quite low as to what we're hearing other counties are stuck with. So.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Just a comment, I'm in that 2% range as well. I wish I was less than that, but this is a preliminary budget. And, I mean, you just heard requests during our meeting for additional monies or places where we cut back, so I don't want to totally tie our hands going into December, but I'd like to stay reasonable, and do I look at levies from other counties? I do, and I only a few of them because of ones that I know, because I'd like to see what they're doing or what happened there, that they either have deficits or are doing well. So I don't pay attention to all of them. But with that, again, it's a preliminary budget, and it'll be finalized in December, but for now, being on the budget committee, I would feel the most comfortable with 2.5, and I'll make that a motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Kruger setting the preliminary levy at a 2.5% increase. Is there a second?
I can second.
We have a second by Commissioner Nagel. Is there any further discussion? Any
Mr.
further
Chair.
discussion? Go ahead.
And I guess I'll ask the people who are on budget committee or staff, are they comfortable if we set the 2.5? Are we allowing ourselves some room here as things develop in the next month or two? I guess I'd like to hear some supportive information with us looking at a 2.5 preliminary.
Yeah, Commissioner, I think as we, this number does create a little bit of a challenge, which is good. And I think we can go, personally, I feel we can go forward with the 2.5%. It does provide the dollars needed to switch over to the road and bridge account in order to maintain that policy that we have, and keep our fund balance reasonable. If we looked at, forecasting into the years upcoming, where a number is gonna lie at, and I don't feel that this will force our hand into big numbers next year. Of course, we can never outguess what state or federal government might come up with for a mandate, but this does allow a little bit of room, but not a whole lot. So I think it's I am in support of the 2.5. I feel comfortable with that number.
Thank you for that information, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Commissioner Smalls, I agree. I just, I'm hoping that our final budget can come down from that, but I'm not making any promises, and at our last budget meeting, I feel we got a little bit to play with here. I don't think we're locked in, and that's why I kinda went with the 2.5.
Yeah, well, thank you for that information as well, Commissioner.
There's unknowns from now till December, obviously, but I think the couple of months will give us a better range of foresight, and again, I'll lay some on, Colleen lays it out pretty well for us, our deficits and our revenue streams, so we kinda know where we're going, so.
And one more question, Colleen, are you, with your experience in the county, are you comfortable that we're working within the parameters that, you can make things work?
Yeah, the 2.5 would be enough to get them to the 5 months. Just barely, but it would get them there.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any further questions?
One more
Yep.
comment, Mr. Chair, and our fund balance is, I know we're using some now, but I feel this still allows us, our fund balances are important. I don't like people that call them rainy day funds. I mean, they're kind of rainy day funds, but they help us manage so we don't have one department, suffering or, just able to operate the county. And I'm tooting my own horn, but I think from the people I talk to, and everything we've done in McLeod here for the last number of years, is we're sitting in pretty good shape. I mean, wages keep going up, insurance goes up. That is part of these services. I mean, it's pretty hard to have 6, 8, and 10% increases in different departments or insurance or whatever, and then not having to follow up with that without cutting stuff we can't cut. I mean, it's our mandated services or some of our wanted services from the constituents put us here, so.
I wouldn't exactly call them a rainy day because we actually need the money to pay for all of our expenses through May
Okay.
before tax collections come in.
That's a mandated.
Yeah, it's required.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? I'll just add one more comment. We're very lucky that we have the finance department that we do to keep a very, very close eye on these numbers that brought us here today. All right, we'll then proceed to vote on a 2.5% increase for the preliminary levy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clean, thank you for continuing to do an excellent job managing our finances. I know that the board is able to make good decisions because they have good information, and you've been very reliable, and it's appreciated. Item B, notification of board workshop following the board meeting on Tuesday, October 1, 2024. That is at Winstead City Hall, located at 201 First Street North, Winstead, Minnesota. As you know, we try and do one meeting a year at least with the county board offsite, and that is on, again, Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 in Winstead. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. We're moving into the end of our agenda. Before we move into our closed meeting, we'll now open up for any open forum or press relations that need to come before the board today. Just please state your name when you come to the microphone. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Cindy Eggersluis, and Dave Wittes is here with me today. And we're here on behalf of a committee that represents Glencoe area churches who plan to hold a living nativity in Glencoe this Christmas season. This has been a biannual event that's been held since 2012, and historically we've held it at Elkleaf Park as a drive-through event. In the past, we've set up 6 different scenes of the nativity, and people have driven through it. However, this year we'd like to change it up a bit and do something different. We'd like to focus on just one scene, our final scene, which features Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus in the manger, along with shepherds and wise men surrounding it. And we're here today to ask for your permission to set this scene up in the grassy lot that would be just east of the courthouse or south of the post office. I believe that's where the Shamla oil station was in the past. So we're looking to move it downtown and just do one scene. We also, if we were allowed, we'd like to put up a little pre-advertising it on the area that would be along Hennepin, just west of the courthouse, just a sign advertising that we're planning to hold this event. We're still working on a date, but it would likely be either Saturday, November 30th or Saturday, December 14th, and it would be from 4 to 7 p.m., so it would be a 3-hour time period. Our plan would be to possibly include food trucks or have vendors selling hot chocolate and treats. We'd also work with the Glencoe Area Chamber to encourage businesses to remain open in the area. We'd have caroling groups and encourage people to park and walk around this area to enjoy the event. So again, what we're asking for is permission to set it up east of the courthouse, south of the post office in the Shamla area.
Mr. Chair? Typically, those requests go through my office, and I work with the sheriff's office to coordinate them, whether or not they'll be able to be held. So I would just ask that the board refer that over to our office again, because there's coordination that needs to be held with that. We've had a few events, but never in the winter because of the property. We don't know what the weather will be like, and having trucks and different things, and then the parking. So if you could consider what we've done in the past when those events have needed to be coordinated, it'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Chair. And in any event, even if the board were to address it or, consider approval, it'd have to be at a future meeting anyway, since it's not on an agenda or notice. So there's no way that you'd get an answer today, regardless of what the nature of the request was. So
Do you have
just a matter
any
of
idea,
process.
like, how long it would take, just because?
Well, your best bet would probably be to coordinate with our county administrator about that, and then if something would need to go back to board, she'd be able to facilitate.
My contact information's all on our website, and I'm not available today after the meeting because we have a workshop right away, and then we have a ribbon cutting for a road opening, but that'll be outside of here.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Could you give me those dates again?
Either November 30th or December 14th. They're both Saturdays from 4 to 7.
Oh, just one day?
It would just be one day.
And would,
It's a matter, we have people that go in, and so
Yep.
it's just a matter of getting enough volunteers to want to do it
well, I
for
just
3
knew that
hours.
the park was more than one day, and I was wondering,
No, that was only just one day.
was it always
Yeah,
just one day?
always just one day. And we've had it 6 times in the park already, and 2 years ago, the attendance was down to probably about 200 cars. During COVID, we were as high as 500 cars, but we think we kind of want to change it up to do something different because it's been done 6 times, and, things need to change a little bit to get people enthused about it again.
Well, Mr. Hench explained we can't do anything today, and I would, just encourage you to go to administration. I will give my 2 cents, so I'd be much in favor of it. I mean, not everybody here lives in Glencoe, but anything we can do here in Glencoe to do some promotion is fine with me, especially in that line, so
All
I'll
right.
do what I can, but I'd ask you to
Okay.
go through admin.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I think it's a great idea. Hopefully, we can help you out because we want to, but there is a process because we have to be equitable to everybody with those requests, so. Get a hold of Sheila and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
I've been through your event at the park before. You guys do a great job. I know it takes a lot of volunteers for that, so I understand your urgency, but like it's already been said, we'll get that through the process and we'll go from there, so. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming today. Any other open forum or press relations? Seeing none, we'll then move into our closed meeting portion of our meeting today. I'm looking for a motion to close the meeting pursuant to Minnesota State Statute, Section 13D.105, Subdivision 3C, to develop or consider offers or counter offers for the county's possible purchase of real property relating to the Hennepin Avenue project. So I will need a motion and a second to go into a closed meeting.
Will we come back in for business or no?
Mr. Hench?
If, not if there's, I don't believe we'll have to.
Just information at this point. Okay. Okay, we'll need a motion and a
So
second.
moved.
We have a motion by Kruger, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Nagel to go into our closed meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Please ask for the room to